What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Creative 2.0 remakes of OG Fortnite. There's two main teams working on them, Atlas Creative and Reboot Royale. Both of them have had about 2 weeks, a little bit under 2 weeks, to kind of update their maps and fine-tune their experience. So we're going to be talking about the differences between these two and which team I think has the better OG Fortnite remake. If you guys do enjoy this video, find it informative, helpful, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, comment down below which team you think has the better map, and both of the codes for these maps will be in the description down below. So we're going to start off with the map itself. Obviously, that is the thing people are most concerned about, and both of these teams did a good job recreating the old map, and they did have to make some sacrifices to get under the memory limit. That was like a huge problem when Creative 2.0 first dropped. Is like the teams thought they were going to have more space to work with than what they really did. I think both of them did a really good job, but Reboot Royale's map is more accurate, I think, and then it also uses the Chapter 1 art style, which I think, like, if you guys played back in the day, like, that OG Fortnite art style is just, like, iconic. And as an example of, like, the difference in quality that they kind of put into the accuracy of the map, Venitex posted this on Twitter where they took a screenshot in the same place on both maps and then kind of compared the inaccuracies. This is the one from Atlas, and as you see, all of these squares are like problems or something wrong with the map, and the Atlas has a lot of inaccuracies or a lot of inconsistencies with the map from this screenshot. And then standing in the same place on Reboot Royale, they didn't find any problems in the spot they used as a comparison. I'm sure there's probably other spots on the map where like maybe Atlas did a better job or they're more comparable, but just overall, just playing the map, the Reboot Royale map feels much more like OG Fortnite to me. I'm not the biggest kind of like purist in terms of like if a wall was brown and they made it like orange or something and it's not quite the same shade of brown, that's not the biggest deal to me. Or if there used to be a tent somewhere where there isn't, like those minor differences aren't the biggest deal to me. But I feel like the Reboot Royale team did do a much better job of recreating the Chapter 1 map, so I think they definitely have the edge there. As far as loot goes, they both kind of stay true to the original loot pool. Reboot Royale does have a few more items, like I think the Chug Jug is in Reboot but not Atlas. The Deagle is in Reboot, and there may be a few others as well, but they both have like the main core items that you're going to be looking for, you know, the pump, the tac. I believe the heavy shotgun is in Reboot, but not Atlas. I could be wrong on that. I don't really want to use the heavy shotgun anyways. They both have the normal AR and the SCAR, the pistol, the SMGs, the bolt sniper. Like the core pieces of the loot pool are there in both maps, but I feel like Reboot Royale does do a better job of kind of adding a few other like pieces of loot that people might be interested in, like the heavy shotgun. One huge difference between these maps as far as loot goes is Atlas didn't launch with floor loot initially, which made it really weird. They have floor loot now, but the floor loot density is weird, and it doesn't seem like the loot spawns in the right places whatsoever. Reboot has this problem as well, where like the loot spawns aren't exactly as they used to be. Like sometimes objects will spawn on rooftops, but I feel like the overall loot density is much more comparable to how the game was back in the day in the Reboot map than the Atlas map. Like I had a just really inconvenient time getting shotguns when landing at some named locations in the Atlas version, and maybe I was just getting unlucky every game I played, but it definitely seems like Reboot did a much better job with the floor loot and like the loot distribution as it is. Also, I believe ammo boxes are not in Atlas. This was a problem when it initially dropped because there was no floor loot either, but I don't think I ever was able to open or find an ammo box when playing the Atlas version, and this can be a problem. It's not always going to be a problem, but if you aren't able to really get ammo for the guns you have, and then like the players you eliminate also don't have ammo for you to benefit from killing them because they didn't get ammo boxes either, it's just not really fun to play the game and not have ammo ever. So I feel like I was able to more consistently land and get loot at a rate I would expect when playing the Reboot Royale version of the map than the Atlas version. As far as mechanics go, this is going to be a hot topic, I think, for a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people that will disagree with me here, but both of these maps have HP siphon, which means when you eliminate somebody, you get health back from killing them. I think this is a great change. I like that this is here, but this wasn't how it was back in the day, all right? So they made this change that makes the game much better, but this is not how OG Fortnite was, all right? Keep that in mind. Both of these maps don't have sprinting or sliding. Reboot doesn't have mantling. Atlas does have mantling. I don't really understand the distinction there, but yeah, I think both of these maps would play much better with sprinting and mantling. Sliding, I don't really care too much about one way or the other, but Sure, we played back in the day with no sprinting and it was fine, but it's easier, I think, to play at a slower pace when you're not used to the faster pace. When we've been used to sprinting in Fortnite and we've had it for like a year now at this point, and then, it's not there anymore, the game feels painfully slow by comparison. And then same thing with mantling. Like, we're used to mantling, our brain kind of works within the confines of being able to mantle, and then it's just not there. So I personally would have liked to seen them take more kind of creative liberty and modernize the experience a little bit as far as the mechanics go. So like, we have HP Siphon, wasn't there back in the day. I think it makes the game much better. I think sprinting and mantling, even though they also weren't there back in the day, would have made the game much better. And that's why I was saying I think a lot of people would disagree, because for some reason, or there's people out there that really want the experience to be as close to like how it was back in the day as possible, but that's just not attainable. Like, the way settings are in the game now is very different. There wasn't build and edit sense back then. There wasn't custom keybinds for controller. I don't think that came out until season 6, and that really changed some of the things that controller players can do, like having instant edit. I'm not sure if scroll wheel reset was popular back then. There's just been so many advancements with the game and with settings and with like mechanics in the game that even though like they can try to get rid of some of them, like sprinting and mantling, I feel like you're never really going to have that pure like OG Fortnite experience. So personally, what I would like to see, keep the map and the loot pool the same, but like keep the quality of life changes, like the mechanics. And like, for example, in modern Fortnite or the current day Fortnite, you can break chests and get the loot from them. So like, if you break a floor above you that a chest is on, you'll get the loot. That wasn't how it was back in the day, but I think that would make the game much better, and there's just many quality of life features like that I think make the game much better. But like I said, both have HP Siphon. That's great. Atlas has Mantle. It's great. Reboot Royale does not have sprinting, mantling, or sliding, and then Atlas doesn't also have sprinting or sliding. The player count is one huge problem that these maps had initially, but that has been fixed. So when Atlas dropped, it was only 30 players, and I don't know what Reboot was that dropped, but it didn't come out until a few days later. So a lot of people's first impression with these maps was 30 players, and that was a very negative experience. They both have 80 max, I believe now, but I didn't really have a problem on either map getting games with like 70 plus players rather quickly, despite Reboot having like double the player count on average. Anytime I've looked at it, Reboot has double the player count of Atlas, and when I saw that, I was wondering if like my games were going to be super dead on Atlas, but that was not the case. Both versions were able to fill lobbies from what I played. I was playing on like a Sunday afternoon though, so that's probably going to be a time where there's a lot of people playing, but this will vary from, the server you're playing on and how many people are playing there, and then also the time of day you're playing. But I think having 80 players max, it's not quite 100, but it's much better than 30, and it feels much more like a BR. So I'm happy they were able to fix that. I think the biggest problem, or one of the biggest problems that both of these maps have, is the zones. So for whatever reason, you can't look at your map and see where zone is going to be. So like, let's say you land retail, and zone is on the far left side of the map. Like, it's going to end Haunted Hills. You won't know about that until like zone is just like damaging you, and then you start going, and then you just can never get out of zone. So I would like to see them make it to where you can open the map and see where zone is going to go. That's a pretty important aspect for a BR. From what I've seen, based on like following both of these teams on Twitter, is that's more of like an Epic issue, or like the tools they have available in UEFN at this point. Like, there will be a lot of updates to UEFN over time that gives developers more tools and more like ability to do things. But as of now, neither of these maps let you see where zone is, and it makes playing the game or planning around the game very weird in some instances, and it makes the game unpredictable in some ways. One thing that Reboot did that is very, very good, and it's not like perfect, but it's like making the best out of a bad situation, is that underneath the minimap, it'll tell you how many meters you are away from zone, or if you're in safe zone. So like I said, this isn't perfect, but it's the best of a bad situation. It's of the tools they have available to them. This makes the game much more playable than Atlas, where it doesn't have this, and you just have no idea where zone is going to be. Also, combine that with the fact that you can't sprint in either of these maps. So if you are stuck in zone, you're just stuck in zone, and it's like very, very inconvenient to get out of. There aren't launch pads in the game. There was launch pads back in the day in season 2 and 3, but I think when Epic reworked it from a trap item to like an inventory slot item, you just can't put it back to a trap item or something like that. So these maps don't have launch pads despite having campfires. So if they had launch pads, this would probably be less of a problem. But yeah, no launch pads, no ability to see where zone is, no sprinting. It's like very problematic if you do get stuck in zone. As far as bugs go, I feel like both of these maps were just fine. There wasn't any game-breaking bugs that I ran into. When Atlas initially dropped, there was a bug where the game just wouldn't start sometimes, and you would be stuck on Spawn Island in the storm, and you just have to back out and re-queue, and then hope the next game you get into actually allows you to play. That seems to have been fixed. I didn't encounter that problem when playing either of these maps, which is great. The biggest problem I probably ran into was just the sprint bug. If you guys play, normal Fortnite, you know that bug where your character is stuck in the sprint animation, but you're not sprinting and you're not going fast. Your arms are just like flailing around. That is super annoying in this map because the way you fix that is by sprinting. But since you can't sprint, you can't fix the bug if you get it. So it's just like really annoying. I think some players unbind sprinting when they play this. I use paddle for sprint, which is like a button on the back of my controller. So I just took that off when playing this, and then I didn't have the problem anymore. But yeah, if you sprint while on Spawn Island, or if you hit your sprint button, even though you can't sprint, you can still trigger this bug, which is super annoying. And then also, as far as bugs go, I don't know if this is really a bug, but the game never felt as good to me as like normal Fortnite does. I don't really know if it's just a Creative 2.0 thing, the fact that I had to be on DX12 where I'm used to performance mode, but the game just feels like off. Like I said, I don't know if that's a me issue because I'm used to performance mode input delay, and then DX12 has a bit more, but the game does feel very weird. And then another problem that both of these maps have is teamers. So like the only version available is solos, but I think people can still like queue up as a team, and it makes it very easy to get into the same game and just like basically cheat. And that is very, very common in both of these maps, unfortunately. I don't know how many games I played. Let's just say 15 or 20, and probably like between 8 and 12 of them I encountered cheaters. Like it was very, very common to just not even have people teaming, but having people like blatantly teaming. Like they'll be right next to each other, like rushing you, or right next to each other, like sniping at you. I'm not really sure if the creators of these maps can like ban people or suspend people from playing their map, but I do think teamers are a problem on these maps. And I mean, you could say it doesn't matter because it's just creative, it's just there to have fun, but it's like not fun randomly having to fight against 2 to 3 people actively trying to like cheat, like it shouldn't matter, but it's still irritating, and it's still just not fun to play against. So in conclusion, I think both of these maps, have come a far way from where they are on launch. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is the mat cap. So the Reboot map has 500 of each mat type total, so you can have 1,500 total maps. Atlas has 999 total mats. I think Reboot is better for this. This wasn't how it was initially, but I like the 500 mat cap. And both of these maps have improved a lot from where they were at launch. I think Reboot Royale is just a better map at like the current state. Like they're both remaking the same thing, so it's not like there's night and day differences between one or the other, but I feel like Reboot just does like every little thing a little bit better. Like the map is more accurate, and the art style is more true to Chapter 1. The mat cap, I think, is better in Reboot Royale. The looting, I think, is better in Reboot Royale. Like the fact that there's an indicator on if you're in zone or not, I think is better in Reboot Royale. So like it's very minor things, but Reboot Royale kind of has the edge in all of them. And I feel like that's just going to kind of be how it's going to be when you have 2 teams working to create the exact same thing. Like there will be very minor kind of nitpicky differences, but when those differences all add up in favor of one team, that one team seems to have done the better work. And also, one crazy thing is that Reboot Royale is on version 29 at this point when you look at the code in game, and then Atlas is on version 10. And the reason why that's kind of interesting is that Reboot launched a few days late. I think it was like 3 days later than Atlas. So Atlas had a 3-day advantage in doing updates, and it's only been out for like 10 days, I think, at this point. And in that time, despite having less time, Reboot has pushed out 3 times as many updates. So I feel like not only is Reboot's map better right now, they seem more committed to like updating and improving their map than Atlas does. Could be wrong on that, but that just seems to be the case. If they've been out less and done 3 times the amount of updates, it definitely gives that impression. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. What team do you think made the better map or made the better recreation of OG Fortnite? If you guys did enjoy this video, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.